Hi there, I'm Erin, and today I feel really guided to do some spiritual awakening truth talk around the archetype of the hermit. My teacher brain wants to break it into, an organized list, so we're really going to explore 5 big signs that you may be experiencing the hermit on a very deep and maybe even permanent level. If you've had a spiritual awakening, the hermit really is that archetype for soul searching, solitude, turning inward, higher guidance, getting to know your inner guides and your soul wisdom really coming through in this incarnation, in this lifetime. And when that happens to you, there are some pretty clear signs that this is moving in. Let's talk about the hermit energy and how it may be entering your life. And lately, my cat likes to be in these videos. So there she is. Hi, babe. I'm just going to let her because she sits in this chair. She wants this chair that I'm in right now. So she'll probably hang around and wait for me to leave. Hello. All right. Try to, if you're a cat person, you'll probably enjoy this. If not, just bear with us. All right. So back to the hermit. Um, I'm going to break this down for us with the 5 signs. The first one being like the most obvious sign. And so, my number one sign that you are probably experiencing the hermit as an overarching archetype, not just a one tarot card that you're going to pull that day, but I'm talking the big archetype moving into your life, changing you from the inside out, is the feeling of I'd rather be alone. And this one is going to be like, duh, of course. Of course, that's what the hermit brings. The hermit is, on that mountaintop by himself. But I'm talking about a deep longing, almost to the point where it hurts and aches, that you really crave spiritual oneness with yourself and no one else's energy around you. I had never experienced that before, and my life was very much set up as a social person. I had no time to myself. I was a mother of twins. I was a wife. I was a teacher. And they're just, other than being in my car occasionally, I was never alone. And I think that'll drive any person crazy, even if you don't have the hermit in your life. I was actually now had moved into more of a spiritual practice where I was working with people one on one, doing quantum healing work. And even then, the amount of alone time that I was getting was not enough for me. I had set up my life so that I really was not honoring my need for more time in deep meditation. Just, I would find that I didn't even know what I was doing by myself. I just wanted to sit. I just wanted to be in a space where no one else was bothering me and there was really nothing else going on. It wasn't like I had, these deep goals to meditate on this or that or whatever. It was just about being in my own space and noticing the feeling of feeling like I am not alone and I'm actually with myself. And that shifted in that time. It was like there was a time when I couldn't stand to be alone with myself. That's why I surrounded myself with people or activities or, other distractions. And then switching over to now just wanting to be alone with myself while I'm doing absolutely nothing. Or maybe I'm just, looking at crystals or playing with my cards or, journaling or whatever it was. And that was deeply like fascinating and enthralling and satisfying for me. So I wanted this and I needed it and I craved it. It could also be associated with the feeling of missing yourself. And if you haven't had enough time for yourself and the hermit is coming into your life, you're going to feel like you miss yourself because you will be feeling your soul. Your soul is a person. You are a person, and it's possible to miss yourself because you just haven't been spending time with you. And this will be a driving need. It will be a deep ache and a longing in your life that needs satisfaction. You need to quench your thirst for your soul and being with it. And that was the primary sign for me that the hermit had entered my life. Number two, let's talk about the number two sign. It really brought in this assessment and actually just the awakening to the idea of boundaries. I had never been introduced to the idea of having boundaries before. I had never felt the audacity of needing to create, space for myself to be in my life. Alone time, meditation time, exercise time, yoga time, whatever that is that makes you feel like you are being with yourself, not distracted by anything else, just introspective alone time. And this now created a need for boundaries. And my need for boundaries started to arise with anger. And I think I talked in my first spiritual awakening video, which if you haven't watched them and you would like to know the story of my spiritual awakening, how it happened, compare it to your timeline, see if there's anything resonant there. I'll, pin it in the description. There's a part one and a part two. But in part one, I really talked about anger being the catalyst, the fire that drew me into my spiritual awakening and really helped to churn up a lot of things that had been stuck in the deep unconscious of me. And here in number two sign was discovering the need for boundaries and beginning to explore that. What is a boundary? Do I need to create this, time for myself? And how do I do that? I had never done it before. In fact, I was giving my clients just, open access to just text me anytime they had a question. And so I was spending a lot of my personal time texting back and forth with people who had all kinds of questions. And, this was outside of the boundary of the session. I was spending, 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 hours with someone in a session, and then having all of these follow-up texts and questions and interactions, which really fed me for a while. I was very happy to do it. It felt good. And then all of a sudden it didn't feel good anymore. I started to feel encroached upon, like my walls were closing in around me, and I didn't have enough personal space, personal time. It really required me to assess where I am with my boundaries with people, even friends, even family, how I communicate. So one of the things I did was I started putting my phone on a do not disturb setting where the recipient who tried to text me would get the notice, Erin has her phone on do not disturb. And this is just a tip for anyone who is experiencing this need for boundaries that the hermit, I believe, really brought in for me. It is also a form of self-empowerment and sort of a maturity, an emotional maturity, a spiritual maturity, a self-protection, an understanding that I am this person who deserves space and boundaries and my own time for introspection. And now it took me a long time to get there. This had to beat its way through a lot of programming that I need to be there for everyone. I need to nurture everyone. It's my job to heal them and help them. And all of these things really kind of blew up in my face. I did a ton of shadow work around this because of my intense people-pleasing programming coming in, telling me that it was not appropriate, it was not okay for me to create those boundaries. So yes, that second sign for me that the hermit was really working in my life, showing me back to myself, was that big need for boundaries. And then the enforcement of those boundaries when the boundaries get pushed. All right, well, let's go on to number 3. So my number 3 sign that the hermit might be in your life now is that you want to meditate. And I know that a lot of us may meditate who are listening to this. You're probably like, I already meditate. But for me, meditation at first was I'm supposed to meditate. Then when the hermit really moved in on me, it was I need to meditate. I craved going into myself. I craved that interaction with my soul energy, with my guides. That's when I started really getting to know my soul guides, my inner guides, spirit guides, whatever you want to call them, and angels, and some of the energies that were going to be big players in guiding my human experience now. I started feeling like I wanted to do that and needed to. And my meditations got longer and more intense and less like what you would experience in like a guided meditation, but more self-guided. Like I know where I'm going because somebody's taking me there. You could almost imagine that hermit with that lantern going, come this way, I will show you. That's what that experience was more and more like. So I was growing in that inner world, my inner world opening up for me and really wanting, needing to be there, looking forward to spending that private time with myself. So number 4 is really a little bit like number 2, but I was realizing with number 4 that I am socializing differently now. That my social self, my public self, had changed drastically and was undergoing such a transformation and such a shift that it was almost like I didn't know myself anymore. I started apologizing a lot for feeling like I wanted to hermit and cocoon myself and really step back and away from the public eye. So over and over and over, I found myself like canceling plans, found that my need and desire to socialize went from like, if it was at 100% before, it's now down to like 15%. And the way that I socialize was changing as well. I much prefer like one-on-one or like very small group, maybe up to like just 3 of us hanging out. And it would need to be based on deep sharing of deep truths, more like spiritual talk, more like, fireside chats with our mug of tea where we're just really going into deep spiritual or emotional concepts and getting really truthy with each other. That kind of interaction was the only kind that was satisfying to me anymore. Getting together with a big group of, people and like drinking wine and ha ha ha, let's catch up. That held absolutely no interest for me and still does not. And I have really tried to keep up with that. And this last year, I've done very little of that. I'm honoring my hermit. I'm honoring that the types of social interactions that do not feel resonant with me in my truth center, I'm just going to have to say no to because it is not truthful and honest for me to say yes to those things anymore. And a lot of pain and self-judgment and sadness came in through the process of making those decisions. Each time I get invited to something, I have to go through a little bit of shadow work and really get down to the truth of whether or not I truly want to do that, because is it best for Erin? And really starting to bring it into my own world of, is that resonating with me rather than do I want to please that group? Do I want to fit in? Do I want to be seen as a social person who cares about others? I mean, honestly, I've had to put a lot of that away. And that brought me into some deep shadow work where the people pleaser in me had to really be looked at. And I consider myself to be a recovering people pleaser. I'm not all the way there yet, but I am much more aware of that part of myself that always used to say yes to everything, even when she didn't want to, deep down inside. So on we go with that journey. And I'm going to take you into number 5 now. The 5th sign that the hermit may be in your life working with you and possibly even here to stay. Your motivations and behaviors that used to arise out of being your social public self begin to atrophy naturally. And I was kind of leading into this with number 4. And a whole chapter of shadow work will emerge from the hermit being in your life. That's only if it didn't fit into your personality profile before. If you've been a hermit all your life, if you've been an introvert and that's how you cultivated your life, built it, you manifested, all of that, then you don't have to worry about number 5. Number 5 is for people who may not have already had this hermit working in their life, that didn't already have that in their conditioned, programmed aspect of self, the ego. Okay, so my ego was not a hermit. My ego was a social, fun party person. Woo woo. Which in a certain setting, I still am fun and social and like to party, but it's in a different way. And it's with maybe a very tiny group of people. And it's within the honoring of, the way that I like to do it and the things that I feel a little party about. Maybe it isn't, some of the stuff that I used to do before. If you are resonating with your hermit, realize that it will meet you wherever you are right now and begin to transform you from wherever it meets you. So if you're very high on the extrovert spectrum to begin with, before your spiritual awakening, your hermit will meet you there. And so I was a people pleaser. I was very social. My hermit met me right there. But in order for that hermit to make its way and to take me all the way into myself, he had to walk me through a lot of shadow work. Shadow work where my inner child and my people pleaser was really being worked with. And that brought in a lot of other guides like Kuan Yin and Mother Mary. A lot of the divine feminine reclamation guides came in and really helped to empower me on the level where I was disempowered from all of those people pleasing type of programs, not feeling safe to stand in my truth, make room for myself, and all of those things. Number 5 sign is that those parts of yourself begin to atrophy naturally. And if that brings you into shadow work, so be it. That is where you're supposed to be right now, and it's okay. You don't have to apologize for being in your hermit. Your hermit is guiding you into your soul, guiding you into your higher vibrating parts and pieces of self so that you can access them in your human form, so that you can open your channel, so that you can be grounded here as a more spiritual being. And that is okay. It's just that it may challenge some of the parts of you that are very attached in your ego to being a social person or pleasing others. It might be challenging to some of your relationships. This was very difficult for my husband and some of my friends to understand, that I needed to be with myself so much. I spent a lot of time resisting my hermit, and that was just my path. If it's available to you to let your hermit in when he comes, if he's already here, and just allow it and don't resist, don't apologize for it, let it come in. You're going to be guided to some really beautiful, deep, spiritual, soulful parts of yourself and your own presence, which we will be feeling more and more as time goes on. So those were the 5 big signs that I came up with based on my own experience. If you have made it to the end of this video and you would like to leave me a little comment or a thumbs up, I'd love to know where you are with your hermit. Has it come in for you? Have you always been an introvert or a hermit? Was this difficult for you when this archetype came in? And do you resonate with this? All right, thank you for watching my video. Come on back for Spiritual Awakening Talk. We do channeling of light language here. We do self-healing and all of the above. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.